from Bosnia, which I'm not sure how much of us know about Bosnia and know about the history of Bosnia, and know about also Dennis, how he grew and how was the kind of the setup. So my first question will be about if you could a bit tell us about Bosnia and about the Bosnian war. That I learned that before you studied cinema, you were actually a documentary filmmaker. You were shooting the war. So if you could tell us about, I mean, like, you know, I think in Egypt people will think like, yeah, if there is a wartime, let's study engineering or let's study being a doctor, as you were actually in the process to be an engineer, if I understood correctly. But at that time, you decide actually.
No, actually what happened is when war started in Yugoslavia, which Bosnia used to be part of, I was studying film directing. I was on the third year of film and theater directing.
In us?
No, that's later.
That's later. Oh.
That's later.
Okay.
So I was in a film school, and then war started.
Okay.
And when city of Sarajevo, on the first night of bombardment on 6th of April, there were people on the street saying we don't want war. And then Serbian snipers started shooting, killing people, and then they started bombing. I basically went and went to police station, and I said, what can I do? And actually there were guys who had the special forces police, and I really wanted to join them because they were cool. But very quickly I realized I was not as special as they are. And I actually realized that nobody's filming what's happening. Mm-hmm. So I picked up the camera because I was already with them. Yes. And I started filming. Because it was really chaotic in the beginning of war. The city was, you know, there were fights everywhere in different, we didn't know where the lines were. So
yeah, let me translate and then we move on. So بوسنيا كان في حرب مهمة جدا بتحصل، الحرب البوسنية من سنة 92 لسنة 95 بين بوسنيا وصربيا بشكل أساسي. في الوقت دوت دانيس كان بيدرس سينما وحس ان هو يعني الدنيا كانت فوضى جدا وحس ان هو محتاج يبقى جزء من اللي بيحصل حواليه. ففي الوقت دوت حس ان بتوع البوليس يعني ناس روشه وممكن ان هو يبقى جزء منهم، فراح وقال لهم انا محتاج ممكن اتطوع وممكن ابقى جزء من الشرطه يعني. وبعد كده ما كانش في حد خالص بيعمل توثيق للي بيحصل ده، ومن هنا هو بدأ يوثق الاحداث اللي بتحصل. And how much this kind of, because your first film was based on this, how much this has an impact on you? Because I think I think at that age in university when the Egyptian Revolution happened in 2011, and I think when you are students and at that time early 20s, if I'm not mistaken, and then there is a big incident or political event happens, I think that shaped your personality in a way or another. So if you could a bit elaborate on this.
Yeah, well, if you live through a war, it stays with you forever, I think. So, well, you know, the thing is, before war, I really wanted to make feature films. I was never into documentaries. Yeah. And then, as I was in the army and I started filming the war, eventually I forgot about feature films. You know, I find that life itself is much better screenplay writer than we can ever be. So I filmed for many, many years. During the war and after the war, I actually worked on documentaries, and I made a lot of documentaries. And at the same time, during the war, I was filming every day. I was every day on the front line. I was a soldier, and they would send me each time whenever there was shit situation, I would go to film, because when there's nothing happening, there's nothing to film. So I've basically spent 2 years learning craft under the bullets, and I guess that makes you kind of work quickly and take decisions quickly, and you know, your survival instincts are heightened. So for many years I continued making documentaries. I didn't feel any urge to make any feature film until one day I was like, okay, now it's time to go back, and I sat and I wrote No Man's Land.
Okay, let me translate if you don't mind. So
please.
هو بيقول قال جملة عجبتني قوي، قال لما حد بيعيش وقت حرب، الحرب بتعيش جواته للعمر. ما بيقدرش يتخطى ده، بتبقى جزء من شخصيته، جزء من حياته. فهو قضى سنتين كان في الصفوف الأولى في الحرب بشكل يومي، بيمر بان هو بيوثق الاحداث اللي بتحصل، وخلال الوقت دوت اتعلم ان هو يبقى مخرج افضل، ان هو بيصور في ظروف قاسيه جدا، وفي الظروف ديت عشان تبقى مخرج افضل ومصور اشطر انت محتاج تصور بسرعه جدا وتحت ظروف قاسيه. فقعد يعمل ده لمده سنين، وحتى بعد ما مرت شويه سنين هو بدا ينسى اصلا فكره ان هو مهتم ان هو يعمل افلام روائيه، وقرر ان هو قعد شويه يركز في السينما التسجيليه. And if you correct me, at that moment you traveled to Belgium and then
Yeah,
you
I left Sarajevo, I came
Yes.
to Belgium, I finished film school, and that was time when I decided to make a film, my
Yeah,
first feature film.
How much at that time to leave your country, traveling to another country and leave the family and study film at, again, I think it seems that to me at that moment you were very passionate about film, but also the situation and the risk you leave. Are you were kind of escaping this, or you were trying to go and you know in mind that you will learn more to come back to be a better filmmaker?
Well, when I left Bosnia, Bosnian War was a long war, and when I left it, basically the situation calmed down. We thought it's the end of the war. It was in 1994, after 2 years of war. And I was really tired, to be honest. I was tired of war, I was tired of killing, of dying, of everything. So, and as I broke many cameras while filming, I was promised to get a really good camera if I go to New York. And actually, I left Sarajevo, and I was about to go to New York. I stopped in Belgium. I had a friend there at the time, and somehow I met some people. They told me, "Why don't you finish studies here? We'll help you." And that's how it happened. And war basically stopped for a few months, and I thought, well, it's over anyway. So, but then 1 year later, it started again. And it lasted for another 6 months. It was really tough. It was tough time because it was summer, '95, and when Srebrenica happened and everything. And I wanted to go back, but I couldn't because I didn't have papers, and my documents from school were in the school, and school was closed. So I was like, do I go? Do I don't go? It was a tough period, but then it stopped again, and then war was over. So, yeah, after all that experience, I really wanted to make a film, and it had to be anti-war film, because I think the only good films about war are actually anti-war films, are the films that have really message which is clearly anti-war.
Okay. Let me translate if you allow me. هو في اللحظة ديت كان كسر كاميرات كتيرة قوي، بيصور في وقت حرب وكاميرات كتيرة بتتكسر. فهو كان في حد قال له يعني لو رحت درست في نيويورك هناك هيبقى في كاميرات احسن يعني هتصور بكاميرا افضل والكاميرا مش هتتكسر. فهو كان في طريقه اكشلي ان هو يروح نيويورك ووقف بلجيكا، ولما وقف في بلجيكا بدا يبقى في ديسكشن اللي هو طب ما تقعد في بلجيكا تتعلم هنا سينما. فهو كان في الاول هيقعد شويه شهور، وكان ساعتها الحرب في بوسنيا ابتدت تهدى، بس بعدها بشهور رجعت الحرب تاني واستمرت لمده 6 شهور، وكانت حرب قاسيه جدا. وفي الوقت دوت هو قرر خلاص ان انا هقعد في بلجيكا، ان هو ما كانش معاه ورق ان هو يرجع تاني بوسنيا، فكان لازم يفضل قاعد في بلجيكا. وفي الوقت دوت هو خد قرار ان هو اوكي انا لو هعمل افلام انا هحاول اعمل افلام ضد الحرب، وهو شايف ان افضل افلام ممكن تتعمل عن اللي كان بيحصل هي الافلام اللي ضد الحرب. Okay, I have now some just slides of pictures from the film, so it will be keep going. It just stills from the film. I don't think the screen is the best, but they will be changing every 10 seconds. So that just stills from your amazing film. And maybe I want now to go a bit deep with you to discuss actually the creative process of making the film, and then later maybe we'll discuss the production or like how the industry part of the film. So I think you get the idea through your experience shooting the war. So if you could tell us about how you developed the idea I know that you read the script super fast, so if you could also elaborate about the writing process and the creative process of writing the film in a very intense space, in a very intense time frame.
Well, you know, I think every first film is a film that you make all your life, you know, and you try to put everything you've learned in it. With No Man's Land, well, I knew that if I come to producers and I say I want to make war film, they're gonna tell me, good for you. I mean, you know. So I had to find a way, actually, to tell the story that I wanted to tell in a way that will be not expensive. Yeah. And I think there came my education in dramaturgy in theater, because I basically wrote a theater piece. No Man's Land is a theater piece. It's almost like a Greek drama. You have this proscenium, and then you have chorus on two sides reflecting on what's happening in the middle. And it's a kind of spiral dramaturgy in which things start with the point and then they start going wider and wider. So first we have the people who get lost in the fog, and then two guys, and then three guys, and then two sides, and then UN, journalists, whole world. So, you know, I think it's important to realize that for the first film you have to find something that you really want to talk about, that is really, really personal, but you also have to try to make it feasible.
دانيس لما فكر انه هيكتب اول فيلم وهيكتبه عن الحرب، ففكر ازاي يقدر يقنع منتج ان هو يعمل فيلم عن الحرب بشكل ذكي، ان لو راح لحد قال له عايز اعمل فيلم عن الحرب ما حدش هيهتم. وفي بدايه خالص هو كتب الفيلم، هي كانت اصلا مسرحيه ما كانش فيلم، هو كتبه بشكل مسرحي، وهو ما بيحكي السيت اب بتاع الفيلم. لو انت شفتوا الفيلم بيحصل في لوكيشن واحد، في وان لوكيشن، واكنه ستيج، اكنه مسرح، والمسرح بيحصل عليه الايفنتس، مفيش اماكن مختلفه، مفيش ازمنه مختلفه، هو في زمن واحد. فهو كتبه بشكل مسرحي، وهو كان بيوضح ان بيقول اي حد مهتم ان هو يعمل فيلم اول ليه كان محتاج يفكر في ازاي يقدر يعمل فيلم، ازاي يقدر يفكر بشكل انتاجي ذكي، ان هو يقدر يقنع حد ان هو يقدر يساعده ان هو يعمل الفيلم بتاعه. About the genre of the film, that it's, as you mentioned, it's a war film, but it's actually have this dark humor, and it's also about the brutal of reality. So how you kind of mix these together to tell a story, and you know, like whenever you hear about a war film, you expect like big production, a lot of weapons, a lot of things, but actually you make it, as you were saying, like with the correct ingredients that make it possible for a first feature film.
This is what I said. I think it comes with understanding of what you're doing, what you can do, what you can't do, and I think that this is the reason why I would suggest any young person who wants to make films to first of all study dramaturgy, study history of theater. Start with, you know, ancient Greece, move to Roman, go to Golden Age, to Modern Age, to understand how it changed through the times, because you have to understand the elements of the storytelling, because movies are stories. We are storytellers. I think it's most complex art because it's also visual. It's also, you know, you can hear it, you can see it, you can. So it's a very, very complex. But it always starts with the basis, and the basis is a good story. And good story is any good story that is important to you.
هو بيقول اهم حاجه احنا محتاجين يبقى عندنا قصه ذكيه، محتاج ان انت لو مهتم بالسينما تبدا اكشلي ان انت تدرس ثياتر، تدرس مسرح، تعلم المسرح من ايام اليونانيين الجريك، وتموف اون مع الازمنه بعد كده، تعلم البيزكس بتاعت الدراماتورجي، بتاعت الدراما، وازاي القصص بتحكي. ان اي فيلم ممكن يتعمل لو ما فيهوش قصه قويه مش هتقدر تموف اون بالفيلم بتاعك، وازاي تفكر بكمان التعقيدات العناصر اللي جوه القصه. Maybe I could also ask you about I think the timing of the film, the timing of making the film about such topic coming from Bosnia also was very much relevant to bring such a film from this region at that time. So could you a bit elaborate about the timing of making this film, and if it was like 5 years after, would it be possible or the same?
Well, you know what? I wish I made it before, but
Yes, before would be more
I
interesting.
was studying at the time, and it takes time to make film. It's not, even if it's fast, it still takes time. I don't know. Timing was right for it in a sense that this film won an Oscar over Amélie. I heard you say Amélie, and the whole world was in love with Amélie. But then 11 September happened,
I'm having a slide about
and then suddenly people didn't care about Amélie anymore. And this film was talking about war, it had a deep humanistic message, and I think at the time there was a rule that voters for the Oscars had to prove that they've seen all the films, which today doesn't exist anymore. Today they vote, everybody votes. So most of the time people don't even watch films, they just vote whoever they know or they heard or whatever, which is sad, I think. I think when you look at the list of the names of the people who won the foreign Oscars, I always wonder how the fuck did I finish in it, because I know all of them, and I think they're great filmmakers. I'm not sure I'm still one of them. Maybe one day.
كنت بسأله على توقيت عمل الفيلم وازاي توقيت صناعة الفيلم مهم قوي. فهو كان عمل كومنت او عمل تعليق على تعليق انا قلته في الاول، ان في السنه اللي طلع فيها نو مانز لاند كان في فيلم فرنساوي مهم قوي اللي هو ايميلي، والناس كلها كانت بتحب ايميلي، بس شهور قليله، وانا هتكلم عن ده في سلايدز ثانيه، شهور قليله قبل الاوسكار نومينيشن حصل احداث 11 سبتمبر، وبقت الاكاديمي والسelection في الوقت ده بيفكروا اكتر في ايه الستيتمنت اللي هم ممكن يقولوها، وما بقاش الناس مهتمين يمكن بالافلام يمكن اللي ممكن تبقى الجمهور يعجبها، بس هو في ستيتمنت سياسيه هم شايفين الوضع ده ساعتها لازم يحصل. فهو ساعتها كان التايمينج مهم ان هو خلى يبقى فيه اتنشن اكتر على الفيلم.
But I think also the important thing, because we're talking about film craft, once you have the story, meaning once you have a content that is, you have to really think about what is the form that I'm going to use to tell this story. Yes. And as I'm watching these images from No Man's Land, I remember that at the time I wanted this film to look as if Sergio Leone was involved in it. Oh, wow. That was the director that I had in mind when I was making No Man's Land. Yes. And
it has something definitely.
I don't know, but each time I make a film, I have a story, yes. And then I think what would be the best way for the story, to be told. And this is why I think when you watch my films, you can't really say that I made them, because they're all visually different. And they're also different in stories, because once I've done war film, I didn't feel like going back to it. Each time I try to do something that I'm interested in at that very moment.
في الفيلم دوت هو كان نفسه ان الناس اللي تتفرج على الفيلم تحس ان سيرجيو ليوني كان جزء من الفيلم ده عن طريق الصوره، وهو ما يعرفش اذا كان ده حصل ولا لا، وانتوا حاسين بده ولا لا. هو كمان ما بيكررش نفسه، هو دايما لو شفتوا افلامه هتلاقوا ان افلامه مختلفه عن بعض، وكل فيلم ليه ستايل مختلف عن الفيلم الثاني، وده بالنسبه له مهم ان هو خلاص انا عملت ده و I need to move on لفيلم ثاني. Should I move to the next?
So I can give you, I don't know if anybody's seen any of my films, but like an episode in the life of an iron picker. When I was about to shoot it, I actually thought of Sergei Loznitsa and his style in films, because that corresponded to the subject in the way. Circus Columbia was kind of Fellini, or a bit of maybe Bertolucci, right? I don't know, but I always try to find something that corresponds, and this is why it's important to watch films of directors that you love, to watch them and then try to see them also one after another to see them, how they changed and made. I think it's a great school.
Yeah. But maybe before I translate, I want to ask you about the question that you mentioned at the beginning, that your first film is the film that you will keep kind of repeating or doing, or you live with your first film. And I remember also Woody Allen was saying something like this, that he try every film to reinvent himself. But you're in the end,
Woody
maybe,
Allen makes the same film forever.
exactly. Do the same film forever. So,
no, but it's great. I mean, there
Yes,
are people
yeah, yeah.
there are people who are like this, and
Yeah.
good for them. And some of them we love, some of them not.
yeah.
But thank God we're all different. So
But I was just trying to ask you, like, you were mentioning that every film you're trying to change, like the style, the references, the way
I
of
don't
telling
try
the
to
story.
change. I don't do it to change it.
Okay.
But each time there's a different kind of
Different.
story that I'm interested in.
Yes.
So from there, I go and I try to figure out what would be the best style to tell the
To tell.
story.
Yeah.
Not because I want to change it.
Yes.
I mean, I could go back to whatever, Sergio Leone. And actually, I am working on something that one day might be a screenplay for a film which involves Western films.
Oh wow. Okay.
But in Bosnia, so I might
Wow.
go back to him.
Okay.
Or to Ford.
Yes.
Or to, whoever.
Yeah. Let me translate please. So هو كان بيشرح ان ادى مثال تاني من فيلم تاني من افلامه، وان ازاي في الفيلم التاني دوت كان في مخرج اوكراني مهم جدا، هو كان بالنسبه له هو الريفرنس، وهو بيحاول يعمل حاجه شبه الستايل بتاعه، وده ملوش اي علاقه بالستايل بتاع فيلم مثلا نو مان لاندز. انا سالته على وودي ألن، ان وودي ألن كان بيقول ان هو كل فيلم بيحاول يعمل فيلم مختلف بس كل الافلام بتطلع شبه بعضها. فقلت له هل انت بتبقى قاصد تعمل افلام مختلفه من بعض؟ وهو قال لا، ما بقاش انا واخد ده بانتنشن ان انا اللي عايز اغير الستايل. هو شايف ان ده بيجي من القصه، بيجي من الماتيريال. هو دلوقتي شغال على فيلم جديد هيتصور في بوسنيا، وهو ويسترن فيلم، فاحتمال يرجع تاني لحاجه شبه ليوني او يروح لحاجه شبه جون فورد، بس ده جاي من القصه، جاي من الماتيريال، مش جاي من قرار شخصي منه. You talk about Leone, but also I think Godard, you were always kind of, when I read about some of your previous interviews, you were always referring to him about, if I understood correctly, maybe you correct me if I'm mistaken, about this idea of sometimes dark humor or not kind of telling things, I mean like not activistic way of telling this is an anti-war film, but you're doing a sarcastic or a dark human way of telling story that give the statement without actually making the statement. Was this something that you could reflect on?
Yeah, Godard wouldn't be on my list, definitely.
Oh, okay.
I think I mentioned very often I mentioned Kieślowski as somebody that Godard. You know what? Honestly, for me, the best cinema in the world, apart from America that we all grew up with watching. But if you ask me, if I had to preserve, because mankind is about to die, if I would have to preserve cinema, it would be Italian cinema. Italian of
Yes.
40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then it died more or less. But those were the filmmakers that I always go back to and always enjoy, because they have this humor which is also dark sometimes, and beat from it. I was talking about this with my Italian friend. Ettore Scola is for me one of the most underrated film directors in the world. We all know Fellini and Pasolini and Antonioni and De Sica, and we always go around. But for example, he made few films that I find astonishingly beautiful.
Could you repeat his name because I don't catch it?
You see?
Yes,
Ettore
I'm sorry.
Scola.
Scola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't even hear of him.
No, I don't know about him. Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Yeah.
So please find this guy and watch his films, because I'll name you Una Giornata Particolare, which is with Marcello Mastroianni. It's one of the most beautiful films that you're going to see in your life. There is Porchi Brutti Cavalli. Did I say it good? Cattivi, sorry, Cattivi, Sporchi Brutti Cattivi. I don't speak Italian. And there is third one, which is We Loved Each Other So Much. No, I'm just giving you an example.
Yes,
He's
yes.
one, but I could
Yes.
speak of whatever later film that I loved, like one which is Mimi Metallurgico. which is brilliant film about working class and about love and about revenge. And all my life I felt really, really close to that cinema, you know, for some reason. It always felt home for me. French, not so much.
Okay.
Godard, I love Godard, but I love his 2 or 3 films.
Yes.
Which is at the end what, you know, I just mentioned Skoll and also 3 films.
Yeah.
And I guess if, you know, a lot of directors have few films that we love.
Yes. Yes. Let me translate.
Sorry.
So
they should speak English if they want to make movies.
I'm just, you know, like I'm afraid that if some people.
You all speak English, for God's sake, don't you? You shouldn't be here if you don't speak English. Leave if you don't speak English. Learn English and then come back to. How can you make movies if you don't speak English? I mean,
that's a good point.
How they say cut in Arabic.
Yeah, but we said cut.
But so there you go. So
yes.
You know. So I think they all speak English.
But you know, like
or
also,
this is wrong place for you.
That's not the conversation. But I think also, I mean, like if I'm in Bosnia and in Sarajevo, the festival.
You would speak in English, everybody would understand.
No, but if the films are shown without the translation in Bosnian, I think I would be a bit. And I'm Bosnian, and I'm just coming to watch the films. I think I would be a bit.
Okay, translate.
Yeah? Sorry. انا كنت بساله على جودار وعلاقته بجودار، ان انا كنت قريت في انترفيو ان هو مهتم بجودار وكان مؤثر جدا عليه. هو قال لي لا، مش جودار الشخص اللي اثر عليا قوي. هو اتكلم ان لو في سينما واحده ممكن يحتفظ بيها ويخلدها غير السينما الامريكيه اللي احنا كلنا نشأنا عليها، هيبقى هي السينما الايطاليه. وهو شايف ان السينما الايطاليه دايما ريفرنس، دايما بيرجع لها، وسينما مهمه جدا. وقال ان معظم الناس عارفين المخرجين المهمين بازوليني وفيليني، بس ذكر سكولا وقال ان هو مخرج مهم جدا ويمكن ما حدش فينا يعرفه، انا ما اعرفوش. وقال ان في هايدن جيمز كتيره، ناس كده مهمه جدا جوه السينما الايطاليه، ومهم ان احنا نروح نتفرج ونذاكر اكتر السينما الايطاليه. وبعد كده كان بيقول لي ان انا ما ترجمش، بس انا قلت له انا هترجم. اوكي لايك
Oh my God, politics.
Yes, a bit. معلش, sorry. We need to talk about how the films was made, yeah. I mean like industry-wise, yeah. So if I'm correct, I think the film budget was quite high for Bosnian cinema at the time. Yeah, and it was co-production.
It was not high for Bosnia. It was not made with Bosnian money.
Yeah, yes. It's like
no, there was
French.
no. There was French money was the first one because I was living in Paris at the time.
Yes.
So I had the French money first.
Yes.
And it's a funny story. There was this guy.
Yes.
His name is Chedomir Kolar, and I was big shot at that time.
This one, yeah.
That's my love. Yes.
Yeah.
So this handsome guy, I meet him in a gallery in Paris, and they tell me, you know, this is the guy, and I come to him and I say, hey, and he say, hey, and I say, well, I have documentary film that, you know, I would like you to see. And he goes like, okay. So I give him tapes. And, you know, 20 days later, he comes back and say, nice films. And I'm like, thank you. Could we work together? And it was 1999,
Yeah.
I think. And he tells me, I'm busy until 2004. Okay. So then I was like, okay. I take my screenplay. I made 3 copies. I remember I had enough money to make 3 copies. I really didn't have money at that time. And it was expensive to make these copies nicely. So I found the 3 companies in Paris that were involved with making films in ex-Yugoslavia. Yeah. So I went to these 3 companies, and I didn't know that he works in one of these.
He works in one of them, yes.
But I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I went and I gave it to the lady in front. And she tells me, you want to see Chedomir Kolar for this? And I'm like, no. Is there anybody else? And she goes like, yes. And I'm like, well, it's for everybody else. No, it's not for him. She looks at me and I'm out. I'm walking out. My phone rings. And it's Chedomir. And he says, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. What's going on? He said, you brought the screenplay. I said, yeah, but it's not for you. He says, what do you mean? I said, you're busy until 2004. So, you know, I brought it for, if there are other people who produce. And he comes, why didn't you come to pitch? I'm like, to do what?
Yes, back then it was
He said, to pitch. I'm like, what's pitch? And he says, well, you know, to tell me about the film. I'm like, dude, read the fucking screenplay. If you like me, if you like it, you know, like, call me if you like pitch. What the hell is pitch? If I could pitch it to you, I wouldn't write a screenplay. You know, it takes so much more time to write a screenplay than to talk about. You know,
Talk it for 5 minutes, yeah.
So anyway, you know, I go home. He's like, okay, whatever. 3 days later, my phone rings. I go, hello, and it's him. And he says, can we have a lunch? I'm like, sure. Okay, see you. I see you. Hang up. And my wife goes like, what happened? I'm like, we're gonna sign.
Wow.
She goes like, how do you know? I say, if he invited me for the coffee, it would be to give it back to me.
Oh, wow.
He's paying me lunch.
That's big, yeah?
They're French. French don't pay
money,
you
yeah?
lunch. So if French company calls you for lunch, you're good. If they invite
Good
you for
advice,
coffee,
yeah?
don't go. It's true.
اوكي سو انا كنت بساله ان الفيلم فيه بلاد كتيره انفولد في البرودكشن بتاعته وان ما فيش فيلم بالحجم ده في بوسنيا تم انتاجه فقال لي يعني هو ده شيء ما حصلش في بوسنيا وبدا يحكي لي على البروديوسر بتاعه مستر كولر وهو قال ماي لاف هو بيحبه جدا ان وهو بيحكي ان هو في الوقت ده كان عايش في باريس وهو خلال في باريس كان في جاليري وقابله بالصدفه وقال له انا فيلم ميكر وبعمل افلام دوكيومنتري خد الشرايط تيبس يعني كانوا بيدوا لبعض تيبس مش لينكس اداله التيب بتاع الفيلم بتاعه وبعد كده قال له ها ايه رايك؟ قال له يعني كويسين قال له انا عندي فيلم احب ان احنا يعني نشتغل مع بعض عليه قال له انا مش فاضي قدامي 5 سنين تقريبا لغايه 2004 هفضل في 2004 فمش فاضي فساعتها هو طبع السيناريو بتاعه 3 نسخ ودي كانت ميزانيه كبيره جدا بالنسبه له وقعد يدور على الانترنت مين الشركات في فرنسا اللي مهتميه ان هي تنتج افلام في يوغوسلافيا سابقا وراح وادى 3 نسخ للشركات ديت وبعد كده هو ما يعرفش ان هو بيشتغل في واحده من الشركات ديت وبعد شويه لقى بيكلمه في التليفون وبيقول له ما تيجي تعمل بيتشنج للفيلم بتاعك فهو قال له اجي بيتش يعني ايه بيتش يعني ايه اللي انت بتقوله ده بيتش ده اللي هو نعمل برزنتيشن قال له يعني ده شيء يعني مش فاهمه انت عندك السيناريو انا قعدت وقت كتير جدا عشان اكتب السيناريو اقرا الفيلم يعني لو انت مهتم اقرا الفيلم انا مش فاضي يعني وبعدها ب3 ايام راح متصل بيه تاني وقال له ما عندكش وقت تيجي تتغدى فهو يعني ببساطه كده قال له خلاص تمام نتقابل نتغدى يعني مفيش مشكله واول ما قفل التليفون قال لزوجته ولمراته انا رايح امضي النهارده الفيلم فقالت له ايه ده انت متاكد عرفت ازاي فقال لها ادام عزموني على الغدا يبقى كده الموضوع جد كده هنمضي لو كانوا عزموني على القهوه كانوا بس هيبقوا بيرجعوا لي السيناريو So Mr. Koller, if I'm not mistaken, he is born in Serbia. He have a Serbian roots.
His mother is Montenegrin and his father is Slovenian.
Okay.
So he's fucked basically.
Yeah. Is the reason.
In our part of the world, it means you belong nowhere.
Yeah. And
no, but it's not. He's Yugoslav. I mean, you know, Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore, but you know, it was at the time it was an amazing country, and I still regret it dearly.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's sad. It's the same people who speak same language, listen to same music, read same books.
Yes.
Except for the prayer, everything else is the same.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like if we can't live together, we are doomed. And obviously we can't, so you're doomed too.
Oh, yeah. So at that time, I think he was in the mid-40s. He's a bit older than you. He did 2 films that was Oscar nomination for Best Foreigner Film. And I think it was you at that time, you just did maybe shorts and you did the documentaries mainly.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of that he trusts you and you will work together. I think that was that you have someone behind your back that could support you. So could you tell me a bit about, I mean, like, I think also, I always believe in this, and I don't know if you agree or disagree with this. I think also sometimes when we are young, we are sometimes ignorant in a good way, that we are wild. We take, you know, like that you go and you were kind of dealing as if that, okay, I'm very much confident, even actually we don't know much or we don't have much information. So could you tell me about actually how you feel confident and how this collaboration, because I know that you work together in many other films after. So how he backing you, give you a confidence that I'm in the right direction?
Oh, it's easy. He finds money, I make film. That's what producers should do, no? They should find you money and give you whatever you need.
Yeah,
and trust you.
Yeah, but you were just still very young, so to trust you.
Yeah, but I made a lot of films. I finished 2 film academies. I've shot long shots, and I knew what I was talking about.
Confidence, yeah.
But you can't be a film director without confidence.
Yes.
I mean, how are you going to choose?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but then you're going to spend 6 months cutting a film, which is, you know.
Yeah.
I think this is why I say always, telling story is the first step. It's
Yes.
learning how to tell story.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you tell a story, you have to go and tell a story about something that you know about.
Yes.
Because making film about something you don't understand doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You're not going to make a good film. So whenever you work on something, you should make something that, you know about.
Yeah.
And I think for the director, the most important thing is to have experience. And I think I can actually even tell you I can tell you a story, which is the day that I realized that I became a director.
Please.
You want?
Yes.
Maybe you translate this before,
Okay,
because
sure.
it's
Okay.
going to take
Yes.
you 2 hours.
Yes. Thank you for keeping me in mind. Yeah. هو انا بساله ازاي هو كان مخرج صغير خالص في اوائل الثلاثينات، ما عملش افلام كتيره قبل كده، صور معظمها حاجات تسجيليه وافلام قصيره صغيره. يعني راح اشتغل مع منتج عنده فيلمين قبل كده كانوا اوسكار نومينيشن في الفاينل ليست لبست فورن فيلم. ازاي يعني دخل كده والثقه كانت عامله ازاي؟ فهو كان اول جزء في اجابته ان يعني انا مخرج عندي قصه وهو منتج ينتج الفلوس يعني يدفع على الفيلم. قلت له بس ما كنتش قلقان، كان عندك ثقه. فقال لي المخرج ما يبقاش مخرج لو مش عندوش الثقه. مهم ان احنا يبقى عندنا ثقه في افكارنا، مهم ان احنا نحكي قصص احنا عارفينها، ولو بنحكي قصص احنا مش عارفينها مش هنعرف نعملها كويس. فمهم ان احنا نبقى عارفين كويس اللي احنا بنحكي عنه. فهو ساعتها كان داخل بثقه شديده جدا ان هو هيقدر يعمل الفيلم ده وهو عارف هو بيتكلم عن ايه، وشايف ان الموضوع مش معقد خالص. وهو دلوقتي هيحكي لنا اليوم اللي هو بيقول ان في يوم كده هو عارف ان انا مخرج، انا صانع افلام. هو في اليوم ده خلاص ادرك ان هو الشخص ده. So the day that you realized that you are a film director.
Okay, so it was during the war. It was one night I was at the front line and I'm coming back to Sarajevo. Sarajevo is surrounded by mountains.
Yes.
And I was filming. It was a really shitty day, a lot of dead and wounded. And I'm coming back and the shelling starts.
Yeah.
So all around me, the grenades start falling. And I start running, and then I remember I had a friend whose cousin had an atelier of a painter in the basement. And I was like, he's probably there. So I run in there, and of course I open the door, and I come in, and inside there's a light music playing.
Wow.
Classical. And he's painting Sarajevo under the snow.
Wow. It's under the bomb up there.
And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm painting. I'm like, yeah. And he looks at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, you know, it's war outside. I says, yeah, but I'm an artist. This is what I should do. You know, artists should preserve the flame of culture in the war. And I was just looking at him like, what the fuck? I got so angry that I left. I went under the bomb, I went home.
Better.
I was so angry. And I was laying in my bed that night and I was thinking, what the hell is wrong? I know the guy, he's not stupid.
Yeah.
How can he do this?
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning, being a filmmaker, I go back and I say, can I film you?
Okay.
He says, sure. So I start filming him. And he's painting Sarajevo under the snow. And he's going there and painting this. And I didn't know what to do with this. I had this material, I didn't know what to do with this. Translate?
Yes. هو بيحكي اليوم اللي هو قرر ان هو يبقى فيه مخرج او اكتشف ان هو مخرج. اليوم دوت هو بيفتكر كان في سراييفو، مدينه سراييفو محاطه بجبال كثيره جدا، وفي اليوم دوت هو كان بيجري خايف من القنابل، وافتكر ان عنده واحد صاحبه عنده اتيليه فنان، والاتيليه دوت تحت الارض. فقال اوكي دي فكره كويسه جدا واحتمال يبقى موجود هناك. فجري ونزل تحت الارض ودخل لقى مزيكا هاديه جدا كلاسيكيه شغاله، وان الراجل بيرسم سراييفو تحت الجليد. فهو استغرب قوي، قال له انت بتعمل ايه؟ يعني ازاي يعني ازاي انت بتعمل كده وبره ده اللي بيحصل؟ فهو قال له انا ارتست، انا فنان، يعني انا ماليش دعوه باللي بيحصل بره دوت، انا مبسوط باللي انا بعمله، واحنا المفروض ده اللي نعمله، نعمل البيوتي دوت او نرسم سراييفو في الجليد، هو ده شايف ان ده الفن. فهو ساعتها اتضايق جدا، قرر ان هو يسيب المكان، وكان بالنسبه له احسن ان هو يبقى مع القنابل على ان هو يبقى موجود تحت. روح البيت وساعتها قعد يفكر في الموضوع بشكل كبير قوي، وبعدين قرر تاني يوم الصبح ان هو خد الكاميرا ورجع للاتيليه وصور صديقه دوت وهو عمال بيرسم وبيسمع مزيكا كلاسيكيه.
Then few months later, I go to see my friend who is a photographer who was, making photos before.
Yeah.
We're all same age, like 20s, And I come in his photo studio, and he's sitting next to this improvised stove with some teapot boiling water, and he's putting his photos in the fire. And I'm like, what are you doing? I just have nothing else to burn. I burned chairs, I burned books, I burned this. And I'm like, but it's your art. And I was like, yeah, fuck the art. Like, let's survive.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean, fuck the art? I said, what does this serve? Who cares about these photos? And I was like, can I film you? He goes like, yeah, sure, film. So I filmed him burning and saying,
Photos.
Art doesn't exist in war.
And then
Translate?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Yeah, sure. هو بعد ما صور صديقه الفنان اللي كان بيرسم في سراييفو تحت الارض الجليد، ما كانش عارف يعمل ايه بالفوتوج ده، بس خلى الفوتوج عنده. بعدها باسبوع ليه صديقه مصور فوتوغرافر كان قاعد معاه، وكان في جنبهم زي بوتاجاز بيسخن عليه ميه، والجو كان ساقع جدا زي ما صديقه التاني كان بيرسم السنو. وخلاص صاحبه الفوتوغرافر يعني حط في النار كل الحاجات اللي عنده، حط الخشب، حط الكتب، وهيموت من الساعه. فقرر ان هو ساعتها يحط في النار صوره الفوتوغرافيه. فساعتها دانيس قال له انت بتعمل ايه؟ بتحط الصور في النار؟ انت ده ارت، ده شغلك، الاعمال الفنيه. فهو ساعتها قال له ارت ايه؟ يعني مش وقت لده، احنا عايزين نعيش، احنا هنموت من التلج. فقال له ممكن اصورك، ممكن اصور ده. فقال له صور، يعني ملوش اي لازمه.
So then few months after this, I'm a frontline and I see Showa, who is a friend of mine, sculpture. And I'm like, oh wow, you're in the army too, like we haven't seen each other. He said, yeah, dude, what are you doing while I'm filming? He said, me too, I'm working like never before. I'm like, really? He said, oh, you have to see what I'm doing, like sculptures I'm making, they're fucking crazy. And I'm like, you're working like, he said, yeah, like dude, like you remember Third Man, 1,000 years of wars, Italy made the biggest collection of art.
Yeah.
And 1,000 years of peace, brotherly peace, Swiss made cuckoo watch. And I was like, that's true. And I said, can I film you? So I filmed him. So I had one civilian saying, there's art, we need to preserve it. There's one civilian saying, there's no fucking art, fuck it. I had Showa who says, this is the best time for the artist.
Wow.
Artist creates, soldiers destroys. It's this mix that makes. And then I found very easily another guy who I knew who was in the army, who was playing guitar. I'm like, are you playing anything? I said, oh, fuck, let's beat this motherfuckers, and then, we're gonna see if there's any art left. And that's when I had the film. At that moment, I made 4 different stories, and I made it in one film, and the film was called Portrait of the Artist in War.
Wow.
And each one of those artists was right.
Yes.
Talking about the same subject.
Yes.
And I would show this film. This film traveled around the world, and people would always come to me and say, "Oh, the second story is the," and then the other one would say, "No, the last story is."
Yes.
And it's because people would feel for their story, and that's the moment when I actually understood what it means to be a director, is to tell story convincingly, even if you don't believe in it,
Yes.
even if it's not your
Yes.
opinion, is to follow it through, to give it the best shot you can.
Yeah. Okay. بعد ما صور صديقه التاني اللي كان بيحرق الصور الفوتوغرافيا، التقى بشخص تاني كان بيعمل منحوتات نحتيه على الفرونت رو بتاع الحرب. وقال له انت ازاي بتعمل المنحوتات ديت في الوقت ده؟ قال له ده افضل شيء في حرب واحنا بنعمل نحت، والباك جراوند والظروف ده يمكن افضل شيء ممكن يتعمل فيه وقت فن. وبعد كده وهو بيروح لشغله اليومي في الحرب التقى بصديق تاني كان بيلعب على الجيتار وبيعزف مزيكا وقت الحرب برضو، فحط الاربع قصص دول مع بعض وسماهم اربع بورتريتس لاربع شخصيات فنانين وقت الحرب. والفيلم دوت بيقول سافر العالم كله بقى بيتعرض في اماكن كتيره جدا، وكل حد يجي يقول له القصه الثانيه احسن واحده، القصه الخامسه احسن واحده، سوري الرابعه احسن واحده، القصه الاولى احسن واحده. وهو ساعتها بيقول هو عارف يعني ايه اخراج، ان انا بحكي وجهات نظر مختلفه يمكن عني، يمكن انا مش مقتنع بيها بس انا مصدقها جدا وقادر اخلي الناس تقتنع بيها وتحبها رغم ان هي ممكن ما تبقاش وجهه نظري الشخصيه.
So just to finish
yes,
about being director, I think the most important as a director is to be self-aware, to be strong,
yes,
to have strong personality, because you're leading sometimes 300 people,
yes,
and you have to know the direction. I learn each and every time.
yes.
The last film I made, I learned something
You.
that I didn't know before,
Yes.
and it's never gonna stop. And I think that's the hard part, is that even you're proving your craft, it's never going to be the end of it. But that's also the beautiful thing, because
yes.
each time you start with zero
You.
and you try to do your best.
Yes. هو اخر حاجه بيتكلم عليها عن الاخراج ان بيقول مهم جدا عشان تبقى مخرج ان انت تبقى عارف انت عايز تحكي ايه وهتحكيه ازاي. مهم كمان جدا ان انت يبقى عندك ثقه في وجهه نظرك، ان انت في لحظه هتبقى في لوكيشن وممكن يبقى فيه 300 شخص تاني موجود في اللوكيشن دوت، وانت هتقود ال 300 شخص دوت ازاي، فلازم يبقى عندك رؤيه واضحه. بس كان مهم ان انت تختار الكولابوريتورز، الناس اللي هيتعاونوا معاك في الشغل، وازاي ان انت تديهم ثقه وتبقى بتختار الناس اللي هيبقوا افضل ليك ويضيفوا للمشروع بتاعك. كمان هو بيحكي ان هو عمل 10 افلام طويله، عمل مسلسلات كتيره، اعلانات وافلام تسجيليه كتيره جدا. كل مره هو بيتعلم تاني، كل مره بيكتشف حاجه جديده، وكل مره بيتطور، وهو دوت يمكن الشيء المميز بالنسبه له في صناعه السينما. I want to talk about two other collaborators.
Yes.
So Mr. Walter and Francesca. Mr. Walter is from Belgium, and I think also he was kind of quite experienced, older than you, and Francesca was quite young, I think, maybe same age like you, I think at that time.
Yeah,
so I want to talk also, and I think both doesn't talk Bosnian.
No.
So working on films, so I want you to talk about the experience and the collaboration, but also about the language, which I think is very interesting, by the way, but I want you to elaborate in this.
Yeah, Walter was, I mean, he's retired now.
Yeah.
He was at the time already very known DOP.
Yes.
I came to No Man's Land with storyboard.
Mm.
I've storyboarded every
Scene. Wow.
And then I threw it away.
Mm.
Because for me, making storyboard is exercise for myself, going through the screenplay,
Yes.
thinking how I'm going to shoot it.
Yeah.
But I've realized a long time ago that you don't want to. It's not a Bible.
Mm.
You know, it's not a holy world.
No.
You have to know it, and then you go. And you know what? Sometimes, okay, look, when we started this, you had sun there.
Yes.
Okay, and you come and you watch this place. Okay, we're gonna shoot here like this, and then you come. There's no sun.
Yes.
Or sun is on the other side.
Yeah.
You have to be ready.
Yes.
To change everything. Because if you just say, this is how I want to shoot it, you're going to miss much better shot. Because light behind you now is beautiful, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would have to give you just a little bit light from here, and then, you know,
It's fine.
I would film it from here.
Yeah.
If we were here in the morning, I would never shoot that.
Definitely.
Because it wouldn't look as good. So this is what you have to understand, that everything is changing. Everything is, you know, you have to be ready to kind of let go.
Yeah.
And also with actors, you know, you come with actors on the set,
Yeah.
sometimes they're different from, you know, if you've rehearsed with them. You have to be ready
Yeah.
to change things. Something, scene doesn't work. If it doesn't work in front of your eyes, it's not going to work in editing.
Yeah.
Reshoot immediately, find a solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you have to be confident. You have to understand the material. You have to understand what you're talking about, so you can then play. So if actor comes, can I do this? You go like, no. Or if he comes in with a great idea, you say yes. Like in this film, there's a guy laying on the mine.
Yes.
And the actor, who at that time was a very known actor, you know, had much more experience than me, he comes to me and says, what do you think if I'm really nervous like this? And I'm like, yeah, but then you would explode.
Yes.
You know. And he was like, but I'll do it little. I say, no, you cannot move.
Because you know
But you cannot move.
Yes.
For the spectators who are watching this,
Yes.
you can't move. And also I had to choose somebody who looks good.
Yes.
Because if I put ugly motherfucker on the mine,
Will
everyone's
not
gonna go
hit
let
him.
him go,
Yeah.
who cares? You know, like, I mean, we are laughing, but it's true. You have
Yes.
to think of what you're doing. Why are you doing it?
Let me translate and then we talk more about Walter and Francesca. So أنا بسأله على إن هو اشتغل مع مدير تصوير بلجيكي.
So yeah, so just to finish, Walter
please.
Walter
okay.
van den Ende
Yeah.
is a great director of photography.
Yes.
And we worked really well until one day I was like, okay, we're gonna do like this. And then he looks at me, takes his pipe and says, boring. And in front of everybody.
Oh.
And, you know, it was like 2 weeks in shooting. I was already getting like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
doing this.
I'm
I
doing
know
great.
how to
I'm
do
the best. Yeah.
He just looks at me and goes like, boring. And I was shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Give me 20 minutes. And I went, and I came back. What do you think if we do it like this? He goes, yeah, that's kind of better. But it's not good. Nah, okay. 1 hour.
Toilet. I'm going to the toilet. Yeah.
No, so I went back, and it's shaky ground when you're a director.
Yes,
you know,
sure,
and
sure.
An older man comes and say boring, and everybody's looking at you. You feel the pressure.
Yes.
You know? And then what I did is I kind of forgot everything. I went back to scenes before and scenes after.
Yes.
And then I figured out it was not that it was boring also,
Yeah.
but it didn't fit. You know
With
what
what
I've done with camera, and then I had the click, and I said, we should do it like this. He goes like, yeah, I think that's a good one. So he was very, very good teacher. You know. You can learn from your people that you, but they have to feel comfortable.
Yes.
To tell you no.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or to tell you, I disagree. And then maybe you can get something that is better. And that scene was better, thanks to him.
Yeah. Let me translate if you don't allow me. احنا بنتكلم على والتر المدير التصوير وهو بدأ يحكي في الأول على اكشلي ان هو عمل ستوري بورد للفيلم كله سين باي سين كل السينز وبعد كده رماها. وهو بيقول مهم جدا ان احنا ما نتعاملش مع الستوري بورد ديت ان هي شيء مقدس. في ناس بتتعامل معاها ان هي يعني كتب مقدسه وان هو بتنزل الست بيمشي عليها سين باي سين. هو بالعكس هو شايف ان هي وسيله بتساعده ان هو يذاكر ويفهم الفيلم بتاعه كويس قوي. فهو اكسرسايز شخصي ليه بس هو ما نزل لوكيشن ما كانش بيستخدم الستوري بورد خالص. دي طريقته. وبدا يحكي ان الكرو كله محتاج يبقى حاسس ان انت عارف انت بتعمل ايه وان انت امتى تقول لا انا مش عايز ده او امتى انت عندك استعداد تسمع لاشخاص تانيين. فحكى موقفين. موقف مع الممثل لو احنا شفنا الفيلم في ممثل مشهور كان بيعمل دور ان هو طول الفيلم هو نايم وتحتيه اللي هي الديناميت بيفرقع فهو المفروض ما يتحركش خالص. فالممثل هو ممثل مشهور وشكله حلو وهو جايبه حتى شكله حلو قال عشان يعني الناس تبقى متعاطفه معاه ان هو الراجل لو اتحرك هيموت. فهو طول الفيلم ما بيتحركش خالص. وبعد كده جه الراجل الممثل بيقول لدانيس يعني طب ايه رايك كده مثلا لو رجلي بتشوكني فحرك رجلي كده شويه. فقال له لا لو حركت رجلك هتفرقع فما ينفعش تتحرك خالص. فكان هنا شارب جدا وقال لا رغم ان ممكن تبقى الاقتراحات ديت جايه له بس هو ابتدى يتكلم عن وولتر. وولتر كان العكس. وولتر كان اكبر منه تقريبا 15 سنه ووقت التصوير بعد ما فات اسبوعين من التصوير وهو بقى بدا يحس ان خلاص انا مسيطر والدنيا ماشيه كويس قوي. جه في يوم بيشرح لوولتر هيصور المشهد ازاي هيصور السين ازاي وراح وولتر هو على طول بيبقى حاطط بايب وراح شال البايب كده وقال له بورينج ممله سخيفه مش حلو. فاتخض. هو كان في لحظه كده حاسس ان هو خلاص انا مسيطر يعني. فقال له طب اديني تلت ساعه 20 دقيقه فراح ورجع تاني. قال له طب هنعمل كذا كذا كذا. قال له يعني احسن شويه بس يعني مش حلو قوي. فقال له طب اديني ساعه وراح تاني، وخلال الساعه ديت قعد يفكر ورجع تاني للمشهد اللي قبل واللي بعد المشهد اللي هو كان بيصوره. وعرف ان هو كان يعني تاه كده في المشهد دوت، فرجع له قال له انا بفكر دلوقتي نعمل كذا كذا كذا. قال له اوكي ده صح ده كويس. فهو بيقول ان هو راجل كان حكيم، ومهم ان احنا نختار الكلور معانا اللي كان ساعات مش بس بيسمعوا كلامنا، ساعات نديهم الثقه ونديهم المساحه ان هم يقولوا لنا ساعات اللي احنا بنعمله ده غلط، وده مهم ان احنا ساعات نسمعه كصناع افلام. فلولا المشهد ده ما كانش هيبقى كويس زي ما هو اتعمل في الفيلم، ولولا ما كانش هيتعلم اكتر. هو بيقول انا هو هي واز ا جود تيتشر، هو قال كده بالظبط، هو كان مدرس كويس ليه. فهو بيتعاون مع ناس هو شايفهم ان هو ممكن يبقوا مدرسين مش بس ناس بتشتغل عنده يعني. And Francesca, if you have something to say about her, how you pick working with her and how
Francesca, they brought her to me.
Yeah,
because it was the film was co-production of France,
yes,
Belgium,
yes.
Italy, Slovenia.
You need to put some money in France.
Yeah. And actually, Francesca speaks only Italian. Now she speaks English, but at the time she speaks only Italian. And me at the time I didn't speak word. I didn't understand the word of Italian. Now I can understand a bit, but at the time I couldn't. And we cut the film in a week. Because I don't shoot a lot. I shoot what I need. And we had like 3.5 hours of 4 hours of material.
Wow.
For the whole film. We also lost 9 days because it was raining all the time. We couldn't shoot. So we had 26 days at the end for the film. We've shot it in 26 days. And it was really funny. I remember we made a cut, and she was like, so this is the first cut? And I'm like, no, this is the cut. And she was like, yeah, I'm happy with this too, but they're not going to be happy. I'm like, why they will not be happy? It says, well, you'll see. So I called producer, I called Shahid.
Yeah.
And he tells me, what's up? And I said, we're done. I said, what do you mean you're done? I said, we're finished. I'm going back home. He says, no, you're not. You're staying, I'm coming. And so all 5 producers came that same night, and we sit and we watch the film. And there's silence at the end. And then Marco Miller at the time was one of the producers, says, you can't cut film in 1 week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Is this the issue?
I said, what do you want me to do? He says, I don't know, you have to spend time with the film. Okay. Then Chedamir says to me, where's the scene? There was one scene, and it was really raining that day. And I tell him we took it out because it's really different from all the other scenes. It's really wet and everything. I says, but can you ask Walter if it's okay? So I call Walter. I say, okay, I need to rest. So I go back home. I come back to Venice. We were cutting in Venice. I come back and I ask Walter, is like this scene looks bad? I said, don't worry, I'll fix it. So then Francesca and I, we come back to Venice and we go back to the place where we were cutting. We take this scene, we put it in. It's 45 seconds. And then we spend the next 3 days going around Venice, drinking, driving, enjoying. And when we had enough of Venice, you know, pizzas and all that shit. You traveled
to Torino.
We called producers, we tell them, we made a new cut.
Oh, okay. 45-second difference.
And they come and they watch, and Marco turns and say, you see?
You see?
Like, thank you so much.
If you were to stay one more week in Venice, we are happy, you know?
But the funny story goes, I wanted Francesca to cut my next film.
Yeah.
And Chedamir calls her and tells her, you're paid by week. And she's like, my ass. I'm paid by project. I'm not working per week ever again with this motherfucker.
I would not pay with you.
Yeah, she's like, and she I can tell it now, but then she told me, you cannot tell me cut film in 1 week. The syndicate is going to kill me. Like, okay.
اوكي هو بيحكي عن فرانشيسكا كانت في الوقت دوت ما بتعرفش تتكلم غير بس ايطالي بشكل اساسي، وهم جابوها له. هو ما كانش عارفها ان لما بنشتغل في كو برودكشن مع دول تانية ساعات بيبقى في الزاميه ان انت لازم تحط الفلوس في بلد محدده، وايطاليا واحده من دول الكو برودكشن. فهم كانوا بيعملوا اديتنج في فينيس. هو بيحكي ان هو صور الفيلم كله في 26 يوم. ده عدد قليل جدا بالنسبه لعدد الايام، وهو ما بيعيدش كتير، هو بيصور، هو عارف هو بيصور ايه وبيصور ليه. كان في 9 ايام في مطره شديده جدا، فكمان ده اثر على الايام بتاعتهم البرودكشن. هو فيلم ما كانش ينفع يبقى فيه اللي هو الجزء الممطر دوت. وبعدين هو قابل فرانشيسكا، وخلال الوقت ده هو كان بيفهم شويه ايطالي، وبداوا يمنتجوا. وبعد اسبوع يعني عملوا كات، فكلموا البروديوسر كولر وقالوا له يعني تعالوا احنا خلصنا المونتاج. دانيس قال له انا خلصت، انا جاهز. فقال له ايه انت بتقول ايه؟ ازاي تخلص فيلم في اسبوع؟ احنا جايين. فالخمسه بروديوسرز جم اتفرجوا على الفيلم، صمت شديد. بعد ما الفيلم خلص بقوا بيقولوا له يعني مش عارفين كده يقولوا كومنت ايه يعني. قال له بس ما ينفعش انت تمنتج الفيلم في اسبوع، يعني مستحيل، ده مش طبيعي يعني. طب ايه عايزين تعملوا ايه يعني؟ مفيش حاجه. فكولر افتكر مشهد محدد كده كان متصور، بس كانت المطره بتمطر وقتها، فكان جودته مش مناسبه لبقيه الفيلم. فقال له يعني هو بس المشهد ده مهم ان احنا نستخدمه. فقال له طب سيبني كده افكر. وفعلا رجع كلم والتر وقال له احنا يعني ممكن نبقى عايزين نعيد المشهد ده. قال له ما تقلقش هنحاول نظبط ده. وفعلا صوروا المشهد تاني، وبعد كده رجعوا للمونتاج ومنتجوه. يعني هو 45 ثانيه بالظبط. فهم شالوا المشهد القديم وحطوا المشهد الجديد، وقعدوا 3-4 ايام يلفوا في فينيس يتفسحوا وياكلوا ويشربوا. وبعد كده كلموهم قالوا لهم احنا خلصنا. فجم، وفي واحد من الكو بروديوسرز مارك راح جه قال له شفت بقى، شفت الكات بقت احسن ازاي؟ الفيلم ما انتوا خدتوا وقت طويل تمنتج احسن، هما بس عدلوا 45 ثانيه. فرانسيسكا هو كان عايزها تمنتج له الفيلم الثاني، فبيقول لها البروديوسر بيقول لها احنا يعني هندفع لك بالاسبوع. فقالت له لا انا ما بشتغلش مع دانيس بالاسبوع، هو بيمنتج الفيلم كله في اسبوع، فكده مش هاخد فلوس، انا باخد فلوس بالبروجكت كله. وهو ساعتها كان بيقول يعني ما ينفعش نقول ان احنا منتجنا فيلم في اسبوع، الناس هتاخدنا ان احنا يعني بنهزر او ما بنعملش شغلنا صح.
But Francesca is really great editor. She's actually Marco Bellocchio's wife, who is a very famous Italian director. And she saw all the footage before I came. You know, she really, I mean, it was not a lot, but she really knew it by heart. And it was really funny because the first day we started cutting, I would go like, and she would do click, and then she'd tell her, don't.
That's the language.
I'm not a waiter. I'm okay. And then, you know, I would take a mouse and I would do it myself. Then she would slap my hand and go like this Italian. I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no. Then the second day she came and she bought me a little mouse. And she gave it to me in front of me and said, your mouse, my mouse.
That's your toy, yeah?
Not touch my mouse. Okay. So, it was really funny.
Yeah.
But she's an amazing person. If you ever have a chance to work with her, she's one of the best.
بيقولوا ان هي مونتيرة شاطره جدا وانسانه جميله جدا. وهو زي ما بيقول اللغه ما كانوش عارفين قوي يعني يتكلموا، ان هو ما بيتكلمش ايطالي، فبقى بيحاول يعني ما يجي وقت الكات يعمل لها يسقف، يعمل كده، يخبط على رجلها، يلمس الماوس. فهي بتقول له يعني مش عارفين يتكلموا. تصوروا انتوا بتمنتج مع مونتير انتوا مش عارفين تتكلموا نفس اللغه، مش بس ان هو مش فاهم كمان اللغه بتاعت الفيلم اللي هي البوسني. فهي راح جت تاني يوم وراح جابت له ماوس صغنن كده بقى بتاعه هو، يعني يلعب بيه، هو يستخدم الماوس دوت يدوس لما هو عايز، وهي عندها الماوس بتاعها.
But she almost refused to work with me.
In that film.
Yeah, because first time we met, she came and I just looked at her, and I guess I have this look that makes people embarrassed. So she was like, I say hi, she said hi. And then she looks at Chedomir, and I'm just there. She doesn't speak, I don't speak.
Yeah.
And then after 3 minutes, she went to Chedomir and said, I can't do this film.
Oh, wow.
And Chedomir said, well, I'm afraid of him. And Chedomir tells her, he's okay, don't, seriously, you'll
give
be
him some
fine.
time, give him some time.
Yeah, I don't know. And she was afraid until the moment I took her mouse.
And then
that was it. It was her territory, so.
هو بيحكي ان اول لقاء ما بينهم يعني قال هاي وهي قالت هاي، مش عارفين يتواصلوا، يعني ما بيعرفوش يتكلموا هما الاثنين نفس اللغه. وهو بيقول يعني هو عنده دايما النظره ديت اللي بيخلي الناس تحس ان هو يعني عنده مساحه كده ومش سهل التعامل معاه. فهي بعد 3 دقايق راحت قالت انا مش هشتغل الفيلم ده، مش هقدر اشتغل مع الراجل ده. فهم اقنعوها يعني اصبري ما تقلقيش. وفعلا لغايه اول يوم ما بداوا يمنتجوا، اول ما ضربته على ايده ما مسك الماوس حسوا انه خلاص تمام احنا كده هنقدر نمنتج الفيلم مع بعض. I want to move quickly and briefly. This is not from your film, but I want to refer to it's too late for this? Yes. 55. Yeah, I know that you're not 20. Me neither. Don't worry. No, it's not really about. But it's Amjad Abu Ala, who is a Sudanese filmmaker that make I think 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, a film that was kind of one of the first feature-length Sudanese film after Sudan was not having films for a long time. And it was in Venice, and he got a prize. And it was his first feature. He didn't do many shorts before. And I want to tell you a bit about it, and then I want to hear your reflection about that. That he was based in Emirates, he's Sudanese, and then when he shot the film in Khartoum, most of the crew were Egyptian actually. So he have 2 Egyptian producers, a German producer, French producer, Norwegian, all the package. Mm-hmm. And he kind of have a French DOP that shoot the film and Egyptian editor. And I think I want you to reflect about this idea of being a first-timer and then working maybe with a crew that you trust between, I mean, like the editor, the Egyptian editor that edited the film was still, I think, her second feature length. So it may be like Francesca, but the DOP was quite experienced French DOP. So I want you to reflect about being a first-timer and working with people that they just follow your rules, and some people like, as you mentioned about Walter, like teachers for you. So if you could a bit elaborate in this and how important it is for young filmmakers.
I don't know what's there to elaborate. I very often work with people for the first time. Because I shot film in Sweden, in Norway, in England, in Spain, in Italy, in India. And very often change the crew. So I think I go back to the point where you have to know your story. Yeah. And then when you're choosing people, you try to choose people that can bring something that you need. I just worked in Croatia with the guy who made 2 films. He's a young DOP. And I was supposed to have a Croatian DOP, and I went through all of them, and I couldn't find one that I found, not that they are not good, but didn't correspond to what I needed for this film, what I wanted to do with the picture. And then my producers told me about this guy, and they told me, but we don't have film to show you. We have material, he sent us the material he's just shot. And I said, okay, show me. So I see first shot, second shot, I say, okay, call him. Because that was what I needed. So I think the thing is that you have to know where you're going. You know, so this is why I always talk about you have to know your material as a director more than anybody else. Okay. Yeah, but even if you don't write, I very often write my material, but yes. Even if you don't, you have to acquire it. It has to become yours. Yeah. You have to know where you're going. Otherwise, if you don't have direction, you can go anywhere, and that's not the point. The point is, I want to go there.
Okay. So أنا كنت بسأله على قد إيه مهم إن هو يشتغل مع كرو عندهم خبرة أكتر منه أو كرو جديد، على أساس إيه بيقرر الكرو اللي بيتعاون معاه. فهو رجع تاني إن بيحكي على إن المهم القصة، المهم الحدوتة محتاجة إيه، المهم أنت عايز تروح فين، وإزاي الكرو دوت هيساعدك إن أنت توصل للنقطة دي. وقال إن هو صور أفلام في كل حتة، يمكن في أوروبا، في السويد، في كرواتيا، في إنجلترا، في حتت مختلفة في أوروبا، وكل مرة بيشتغل مع كرو جديد. وحكى بشكل أساسي على إن كان بيعمل فيلم في كرواتيا وقابل كل المصورين في كرواتيا في الوقت دوت، والشخص اللي هو قرر يشتغل معاه كان شخص صغير جدا لسه بيعمل يمكن تاني فيلم طويل ليه، وحتى ما طلب منهم ان هو يشوف اعماله السابقه ما كانش فيه، فقال له يعني هتشوف راشز بتاع فيلمه الجديد اللي هو لسه بيصوره. هو شاف اول شوت وبعد كده شاف تاني شوت وبعد كده قال هو ده الشخص المناسب للفيلم بتاعي. فهو بيقول المهم ان انت تبقى عارف الماتيريال بتاعك، تبقى عارف القصه بتاعتك، ولو انت عارفها كويس انت هتعرف ازاي تتحكي بافضل طريقه ممكنه ومين الكرو المفيد للفيلم بتاعك.
But this is also, I have to say one more. The importance of director. This is why I say it's a really complex thing. It's not one thing.
Yes. You
know, I learned how to cut films when I was in the first year of the school because yes. a guy who was cutting our little films told me, you can't do this. And I was same face like it. I swear to, and we were cutting on the TV station.
Yes.
So when everybody left, I stayed at the TV station, and I spent all night because I saw what he was doing, and I was just playing with the machine until I learned how to do it. And then I cut my film myself, and then I show him, and he tells me, "Oh, that's what you wanted to do." And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you." He says, "No, you didn't tell me that." And I was like, "Okay." And then I learned how to film, because during the war I was filming every day. I can record sound. I'm a musician, so I know what type of music, I would like to have. Sometimes it changes. My daughter for the last film changed my mind completely.
Oh,
she
wow.
came with something, and I was like, "Wow, this is much better than what I had." But you have to go somewhere in order for people to tell you maybe this is not the direction. So I can't act, but I can do it for the actors.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to do it in front of the camera,
No.
because I don't like being, I don't feel, but for them I can do like, no, I would like you to be more, this. So I think when you're a filmmaker, you have to know all the creative aspects of filmmaking. You also have to understand producers.
Yes.
And if they tell you can't have this, sometimes you have to find solution for the thing. And sometimes you also have to tell them, well, I have to have this.
Yeah.
And you can't, we can't shoot a film without it.
Yeah.
So, it's really, my students, I tell them, I can teach you rules of the camera in 2 days. We don't need more than that. That it's very simple.
Yes.
After that, it's everything that you are, and everything that you're gonna put in yourself, all the books that you're gonna read. I tell them, it's as important to read books, maybe even more important than watch films.
Yes.
For the beginning.
Yes.
Later watch films, but start with books. Start with, if you don't have an idea for the film, go to the writers and find something that you go like, ooh, I like this, and then try to understand why do you like this. This is how we learn.
Yeah. هو بدأ يقول كمان مهم جدا المخرج ان هو يبقى ملم بكل جوانب السينمائيه، مش بس زي ما هو كان قال ان انا عارف انا عايز احكي ايه، بس هو ابتدى يحكي ان هو مثلا في اول ايامه خالص في اول سنه في الكليه كان بيروح قناه تلفزيونيه، وكان المونتير هناك بيقول له يعني انت ما بتعرفش تمنتج، انت مش عارف ازاي المونتاج. وكان ساعتها بيقعد بالليل بعد ما المونتير يمشي ويقعد يحاول يجرب ويحاول يمنتج، والمونتير قال له هو ده اللي انت عايز تعمله، اللي هو قال له ما انا من الاول كنت بحاول اقول لك كده. وبعد كده وقت الحرب بدا يتعلم تصوير، ان كان ساعتها ما ينفعش، كان لازم هو اللي بيصور كل الاحداث بنفسه. وبعد كده هو بيقول هو ما بيعرفش يمثل، بس كان دايما بيبقى مهتم ان هو يحاول يوصل افكاره للممثلين ويفكر من وجهة نظر الممثل. نفس الكلام حتى بالنسبه للانتاج، مهم ان احنا كمخرجين نفكر حتى المنتج بيعمل ايه، المنتج ممكن يعمل ايه، والمنتج ممكن ما يعملش ايه، وانا ازاي اطلب منه الحاجه اللي انا عايزها. I will go to the last slide and then I will allow
Why last? We just started.
one last, because you mentioned your students and I have one slide not about the film. Yeah, so you were one of the people who found the Sarajevo Film Academy, and I know that you are deeply involved in the Sarajevo Film Festival with their special talent program. And I always think I have this kind of idea, I don't know how much you think about it, that I think to make great films we need great kind of school or great people who are passionate about film, and then we need to circulate these films maybe through festivals. So why you decide to be involved in, I mean, like I know that you're deeply involved in Sarajevo and love cinema in Sarajevo and trying to support filmmakers, young filmmakers. So if you could tell me a bit and the audience a bit about the academy and the festival.
Well, look, Sarajevo is my home, and you love your home. Simple as that. You don't, I think I was supposed to be born in New York, but something went wrong, and I was born in Sarajevo.
Maybe that's better or no? Yeah, partly.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Sarajevo is fun, but it's small. I think if you go on that tower, you can see more people from there than people in Bosnia.
Oh wow!
It's a small country. It's 3 million people.
Wow! Oh yes.
It's not a lot. As for the academy, well, they actually made me work as a professor. I didn't want to teach.
Yes, I know.
Do I look like teacher to you? No.
Yes, you look, by the way.
No, I
no?
don't.
Okay.
Now I get older, but I don't teach them. I talk to them.
Yes.
It's not teaching. I don't believe in teaching in films.
Yes.
You have to learn yourself.
Yes.
And kids come like, okay, in this festival we saw so many different films.
Yeah.
You have to understand where they come from. Like we just had discussion, we saw, let's take example, Bangladesh film and Japanese film.
Yes.
And Bangladesh film is loud. because it's a loud country.
It's a loud country.
When you go there, it's
Yes.
When you go to Tokyo, it's millions of people living, but there's some quietness about it. It's different culture. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to understand who you have in front of you.
Yes.
When you're working with kids. Same with actors.
Yes.
Some actors, they work with nice words. Some actors, well, I almost beat up once an actor because he was an idiot. And it worked for him, and he gave a great performance after this.
Oh, wow. After okay.
Yeah, he was ringing my shots, and I was really like, and he wanted to be physical. I'm like, okay, let's get physical. I'm not afraid of that. So it's like you have to be, to kind of understand quickly who you're dealing with.
Yes.
So in the school, I just try to talk to kids.
Yeah.
I try to go and be whoever you are. I can't tell you who you want to be.
Yes.
I don't want to produce little Danises. It doesn't make sense,
No.
because my life is my life. And my films are a reflection of everything that I am, and you can't become, you can imitate it,
Yes.
but that's not what you want to do when you're making films. You want to go and say, okay, this is how I see things. Now in the jury, we had discussions about films, and people convincingly talk about certain things that they think are right. But we're talking about art, and it's your vision.